They bought Hasselblad
Mm.
surely for the fact that they could then have their own camera department.
Yeah. Did they buy them or did they partnered
I
with them?
think I think they bought them.
Right.
Let me have a quick
Something we
let me
gotta
have a
fact
quick
check.
look. Fact check time.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna did DJI buy Hasselblad? Yeah. DJI is now majority shareholder of Hasselblad.
Mm.
So they do
Interesting.
basically, in some respects, own Hasselblad. If they're
Right.
Hello, hello, hello,
Hello,
hello,
hello. How are you doing,
hello.
Alex?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good. The weather here is a lot colder than it
Yeah.
has been previously.
Hmm.
But Christmas is coming.
Yeah.
Holidays are coming, as the Coca-Cola advert often says. The other night, me and my wife, totally off subject,
Okay.
there was a Coca-Cola advert back in the 80s. I don't know if
Right.
you've seen that with the lorries. You know, the
Oh.
lorries driving along and holidays are coming and la 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 la. There was a
Hmm.
really long one in the
Right.
80s. Me and
Okay.
my wife the other night spent about 40 minutes trying to find the original advert with no luck whatsoever. We
Oh,
found
really?
loads of other kind of uh, versions of that advert, but never found the original. It's a
Mm.
mystery. Did it even
Interesting.
exist?
Yeah, they've done so many. I mean, Coca-Cola predominantly is an advertising company, if you think about it in some sense. Like, a
Yeah.
lot of I mean, their formula for their drink hasn't changed in so many years, but it's very much the ads and the way they market themselves and the way they kind
Yeah.
of,
It's like McDonald's being in the property business, not the food
yeah,
business.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
the first one, yeah, I mean, I can't. I mean, yeah, I definitely. If you can't find it, I definitely can't find it.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's just they've had so many
I don't
advertisements.
even know if it exists. I think it's something that me and my wife have kind of made up, if it actually even is out there. Um,
Mm.
if
Well,
anyone out there
mhm.
on the big wonderful world of YouTube can the original Coca-Cola lorries advert that goes on for ages, drop us a link because
Yeah.
I really need to satisfy my
To
need
scratch
for
the
this
itch.
Coca-Cola
Yeah.
advert. Before Christmas, though, after Christmas, I'm not interested.
Okay. You're putting them on a deadline. Yeah,
I am, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I am indeed.
Yeah.
Indeedy. So
Cool.
anyway, we
Mm,
completely digressed there and
mm,
talked about Coca-Cola. Although it is one of my favorite drinks,
mm.
but I don't actually have one with me today. So today, after last Friday, which we didn't record, we had a fairly hefty banter about the future of the drone industry and some proper crazy ideas we came up with and never recorded it. So we're going to do it today.
Yeah, that's it.
So
We're gonna do it
today,
today. Yeah.
the subject is the future of the drone industry, or what we
Mm,
think might be the future of the drone industry. Whether it happens or
yeah.
not, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Maybe we're gonna watch this in 10, 20, 30 years and be like, let's see if we were right. It's a good that's a good sort of goal to have, right? Like just
Hmm.
document this, put it on the internet, and then see what happens. So
And
we're
once
trying
it's
to
on the internet, Farron, it's always on the internet.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
never going away.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, um, I guess what we were talking about was we were trying to find parallels between the computing industry and the drone industry, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think who was like, did you mention or I mentioned who someone mentioned like we were talking about dial-up? Was it like I think we were
The mighty
yeah,
dial-up.
the
So
mighty
I'm
dial-up.
I'm a little bit older than you
Yes.
by about some years, quite a few years. So back when I was a lad, um, I think the first dial-up internet I had
Mhm.
must have been well, it wasn't mine. I think my mum had it before me,
Mhm.
and it was AOL.
Right.
So I think it was probably 36 modem,
Right.
33.6K,
Mhm.
28.8, whatever it was back then. God, such a long time ago, I can't remember. And you actually, yeah, I mean, you had to wait. You had to wait for the internet.
Yeah, for it to
And it made
connect.
that horrible
Well, noise,
noise,
yeah.
which maybe we'll link here somewhere. The rancid noise that drove cats insane. Um,
But
and
also
it was
just
that process.
the idea that you had to connect to the internet. You like not Wi-Fi, like you had to physically connect to the internet
Yeah.
because you had to convert between analog and digital signal. I
Yep.
mean, that's what
Yeah.
modems were, right? Like,
And unless you had a separate phone line,
mhm.
it would knock your phone out.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody could ring you. You know, you could
Yeah,
surf for hours and nobody, I mean, that's not a bad thing sometimes, but nobody could ring you because
yeah,
your internet would be take over the phone line.
yeah.
And look where we've come in,
Mhm.
I don't know, how many years? 15
It-
years? It's
yeah, but
15,
I think
15,
90s
20.
was modems, so right, 20 years maybe.
Oh dear, that makes me
Yeah.
feel really old now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And look where we are now. You know, you
Mm.
can get residentially, you can get a gigabit,
Yeah, a gigabit a second.
which is a really sore subject for me
Yeah, I know.
because you've got gigabit internet and
Yes.
I've got 300 meg.
Well, you're not too far. You've got zero point 0.3 gigabit, right?
Yeah, I mean
So
it's still pretty quick,
yeah.
you
Mhm.
know. But that's without there's no dial up. There's
Yeah,
no you are permanently connected to that
yeah,
force, the
exactly.
invisible force that is the internet.
Exactly. And that's 20 years, right? And so much has changed. I mean, if you look at the size of computers, you know, you used to
Yep.
have like these huge mainframe computers where everything started. It was all for scientific computing, it was all for business computing.
Yeah.
Then the personal computer came along, the PC, so you could have these things at home. You know, you could have them at your desk, and you know, people
Yep.
used to think about, you know, maybe one day you'll be able to do something useful with it, like it'll tell you recipes. And people used to make ads about how it's going to
Yep.
revolutionize the world, and people used to get laughed at. A lot of 80s and 90s was just all the personal computer revolution.
Yeah.
Then the internet
Yeah.
came
So
along.
Amstrad, Mac,
Amstrad, Mac,
yeah, yeah, Spectrum.
Macintosh.
You know,
It was called
you had
Macintosh back in the day,
oh,
right?
it's called Macintosh. It was
Yeah.
indeed. Um, you're right though. You know, back then you know, the future was one day everyone will have a personal computer.
Yeah.
Now they are commonplace. So much so that
We've
you're not
got,
gonna be able to see that.
yeah, it's a phone, right? Yeah.
It's my phone.
Yeah.
You know, I've got the power. I've got more power in my phone
Yeah.
than I had on my computer in 1990, whatever.
Yeah.
It's insane the
In
way
fact,
technology is accelerated.
here's an interesting fact. Your phone has more computing power than the supercomputer that was available to the President of the United States in the 60s um, at their disposal. You've got more power in your pocket.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the other thing is there's more power in my phone than there was on the space shuttle
yeah.
that went to space
Yes.
and floated around with,
Yeah.
you know, people in space up
Yeah.
there. You know, it's insane how much technology is advanced. And that obviously can then bring us on to drone
Drones.
technology.
Yeah.
You know, drone tech in the short lifespan that it's currently had has just gone ballistic. And you know, there are some big companies that, well, one big company at the forefront of all of that that just keeps developing and developing and sometimes developing too quickly and too much and releasing too much at any one time. But of course, we're talking about DJI.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've gone from, as you said the other day, a toy manufacturer
Mm-hmm.
up to the biggest
Mm-hmm.
drone manufacturer in the world,
Yeah.
both for enterprise and consumer.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And if you think about how they started and what they were doing initially, it was, you know, as you mentioned, toys,
Mm.
essentially, you know, just trying to get a quadcopter to stabilize in midair. That was their sort of like first drone application, first drone. And since then, they've just come such a long way, and they do so
Yep.
many different types of drones, business drones, consumer drones, different types of cameras. So, you know, they didn't make their own cameras.
No, no, they
Um,
use GoPros to start with.
exactly. Or they partnered with other companies and bolted on their cameras on their
Yep.
kits. And you know, now they're making their own cameras.
Well,
And
they bought Hasselblad
mm,
surely for the fact that they could then have their own camera department.
yeah, did they buy them or did they partnered with them?
I think they bought them.
Right, something we
Let me
gotta
have a
fact
quick
check.
look. Fact check time.
Yeah,
I'm just going to did DJI buy Hasselblad? Yeah, DJI is now majority shareholder of Hasselblad. So they do
interesting.
basically, in some respects, own Hasselblad. If they're
Right,
majority shareholder,
right. Okay, that's really interesting.
yeah.
So they have a majority. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah, I guess if they're majority shareholder, they are very influential in
Yeah.
Hasselblad's future roadmap.
Yep.
But you know, like yeah, cameras. I mean, think about it. Like you know, even just if you go back 5, maybe 7, 10 years ago, a lot of the drones were still custom made. You know, to be able to, a lot of the business drones were custom made. There was a whole community of I remember open source drones as well, DIY drones and
Yeah.
Pilot based drones, and you know you
Yep.
had to kind of like make your own kit. You know, you'd get your frame, you'd get the
But
motors.
that's right, because even DJI had things like the S800, S900,
Mm,
S1000.
yeah,
It was still, you bought the frame,
yeah,
but then you had to buy the components to put inside that rig
yeah,
to get it to fly.
yeah,
Whether it be a DJI flight controller or someone else's, you still had
yeah,
to buy all the parts.
yeah.
No intelligent batteries. There are still drones out there that use the standard lithium ion battery, but you
Hmm.
didn't have intelligent batteries.
Yeah,
You know, um, one of the first drones I flew didn't have an intelligent battery.
yeah, yeah.
You had to check the voltage
Voltage levels.
on the controller,
Yeah,
sure you were in within a certain voltage, else
yeah,
the thing would just drop out the sky.
yeah. And even the charging was not so straightforward. You had to make sure that you were charging them at the optimum level as
Yep.
opposed to completely depleting them. Because again, they were not intelligent batteries.
No.
And you used to have these massive bulky chargers. I remember,
Yeah.
like, I used to have, because there were so many batteries at home that I was charging, I used to have like, a fire bucket and some sand ready to go just
That's
in case.
exactly it. That's what I had. We had a dog room in our old house, which is right on the edge of the house, which is where I charge all my batteries. But I had like a battery charge station with
Mm,
all my lithium ions lined up. But
mm.
when I charged them, I charged them in a fireproof bag,
Yeah,
because if it went pop,
yeah,
at least that way the whole house wouldn't catch fire.
yeah, it's contained.
I made sure the dog was not in the dog room when
Yeah, of
I was charging said
course.
batteries. But now, you've got the Mavic 2, Mavic 3, Mavic Mini, the Mavic Mini range. All the batteries are intelligent.
Yeah, yeah. And even the DJI S1000 that you mentioned, or all of the sort of S series, I mean, there were so many
Yep.
different numbers after that. I remember like they had this NASA flight controller where you had to kind of like, you could program it yourself, but it was like a separate component.
Yep.
And you would buy that and it would have its own programming language and you would kind of like work with it off the actual rig, and then you would
Yeah.
somehow you would connect all these wires and you have these ports you have
Yep.
to get it into.
And lots of flick switches, like little
Yeah,
dip switches you had to play around with to make sure they were in the right configuration. And
yeah,
what a
yeah,
ball ache.
yeah. And after all of that, then you were like, okay, now you need to figure out the payload, the thing that's
Yeah.
actually going to take
Now
the
you've got to
images.
attach a Zen Muse, whatever it was, to it,
Yeah,
then put in my Panasonic GH4,
yeah,
or whatever camera you had that fitted inside their version of the Zen Muse that you could get,
yeah,
and then hook all of that up, and then make sure you had a video feed, and then fly the thing
yeah,
and
yeah.
watch it toilet bowl around the sky, and then go, what did I do wrong? Let's bring it back down, reconfigure it. Yeah.
Yeah, it would take a few attempts to get a proper flight done. You used to
Yep.
have so many extra batteries, not because you had a long mission, but because you knew
Just in
something's gonna
case.
fail. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just not
Just
gonna
in
go.
case something went wrong. You think, oh, I need to bring it back in and
Uh,
change everything. Or your focus wasn't set correctly, which you couldn't really do on the aircraft unless you had a focus wheel.
mm,
Oh, it was just, yeah, it was a
yeah,
nightmare.
yeah,
And now look what you can do.
yeah,
There's the Mavic Mini is a drone about this big
yeah,
that shoots 4K video, and very good 4K video as well from what I've seen. I've not actually flown one myself, but lots of colleagues and friends have got them, and it's a tiny little,
yeah,
it's about the size of my phone,
yeah,
and you can fly that around and take some great
yeah,
great video with it. It's
yeah,
insane,
yeah.
absolutely insane.
And the battery life is still pretty good,
Yeah,
given its
battery life's
size.
great.
And it's
Just
compliant with, well, it's 249 grams, so it's just easier to fly in terms of the categories it falls into.
yep.
And so it's just, I think, yeah, just given 10 years and you've got so much progress, everything's just, there's economies of scale, things get cheaper over time, faster over
Yep.
time. And the machine that builds the machine, the factory gets more optimized, and you
Well,
end up with.
it's kind of going the same with FPV as well now, because
Mhm.
FPV predominantly, up until last year, I guess, maybe the
Mhm.
year before, I think it was last year, was a build it yourself rig.
Yeah.
Everyone built their own FPV units.
Yeah.
Of course, DJI have gone, there's a market for this.
Mhm.
So they released their original DJI FPV rig, which was the flying potato, as everyone calls it, which people have now adapted and put GoPros on. And actually, it's not a bad rig for a long distance unit.
Mhm.
But then this year, they released the Avatar, or the
Mm.
Avatar, as I think it's probably actually called.
Avatar, yeah.
Yeah.
Avatar, yeah.
Which is, a really good FPV rig.
Yeah.
With all the safety features, which we haven't mentioned, that DJI have brought in,
Mhm.
all the safety features of, air brake. It's got an air brake. It's got GPS, I
Yeah.
think. I think it's got GPS. I know that the original FPV had it.
Mhm.
And they're beginning to integrate all of this tech
Mhm.
that the old kit didn't have into their new kit,
Yeah. Yeah.
FPV kit.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Yeah.
10 years time, gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah, we have no idea. And not just I think the innovation has not just been on the hardware side, but I think there's been a lot of innovation on the software. There's
Mm.
been a lot of innovation on the components.
Yep.
There's been a lot of innovation also on the, even though some people might disagree, but like, on the regulatory framework and where you can and cannot fly. So I
Yep.
think we've kind of come a long way. I mean, even if you think from a software perspective, even the onboard software of the drone, I remember like there used to be a massive community of RG Pilot software, which is basically the software that go on the flight controller.
Yep.
But the flight controller software was open source and it would work on any hardware. And it would just mean that you could get very different flavors of software and hardware working together. And you would have like all sorts of issues because the software was not calibrated to the drone. You had to do a
Yep.
calibration every single time, and the software wouldn't really understand what's going on. Whereas now, whether it's DJI software or any other drone onboard software, the calibration of the software is so good. It can understand when the takeoff is not correctly done. It can sort of prevent
Yep.
flips. It can understand its state, position, IMU so well. And I think the same goes for also the sort of flight planning side of things, the mission planning side of things. I remember like you used to have like 7 years ago, the main sort of thing you had was Mission Planner, which still exists today. I mean, the kind of open source software for sort of mission planning, but it was just so clunky.
What
And
it's
yeah.
like Litchi, right? Litchi's been around for a long, long time.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's the same style of thing.
Yeah.
Lots of people still use Litchi,
Mhm.
but there's the advancement in that side of the software techs come up so much.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
people do like to stick to their guns, don't they? If they know how to use it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like Mission Planner and Litchi are very different. Like Mission Planner is one of those things where, you know, so I remember we were building this fixed wing drone with vertical takeoff and landing.
Yeah.
And it was just a very complex system to build. And you needed your mission planner to be mission critical. And you'd press a button on the screen and the whole thing would just crash. And and it was just like, okay, we've got this amazing drone in the air, and we've got no live feed from the drone or any sort of. We had a control. Obviously,
Oh,
we had the remote control,
yeah,
so we
yeah,
could always, you had the Spectrum remote controllers to take control, and
yeah.
the good old sort of, beefy, chunky remote controllers.
The
But
old school remotes.
yeah, but no autonomous control, and so, um, yeah, it was just like that level of reliability was just not built into because it was all open source as well. There's just so many people
Yeah.
working on it. And so I think since then things have come a long way. I mean, even DJI's first few apps. I don't know if you remember, like the very first DJI Go or the very first.
Do I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Well, I started flying with the. I mean, I wasn't a Phantom or Phantom 2 man. I started with the Phantom 3.
right.
And DJI Go was fairly clunky then. And obviously, the Inspire still used DJI Go. You couldn't, with the Inspire, you couldn't update the firmware for the app.
Mm-hmm.
You had to manually update the firmware through the aircraft by a series of beeps and flashes. And it was a nightmare. So, I mean, even firmware update has now come on, a long, long way.
100%. Yeah.
Because, that you can update the firmware by firing up the controller firing up the aircraft, and it says, well, your firmware's out of date. Press a button, downloads the firmware, uploads it to the drone, job done. Never
Yeah.
used to be like that.
Yeah. You always needed like a third-party computer, or you needed
Yep.
like, connect your drone to the computer and do it over the USB or something.
Yep.
Make sure it's powered on and all that. So yeah, I think a lot of that. I remember DJI Assistant, which is still going on at the moment, but I remember the very first version of it, which
Oh,
was
it's bad.
just pain to work with.
Yeah, it was.
But they've done lots of work on it, and it's a lot more easier to use now. Even though it's almost you don't almost never really need it apart from
No.
a few different use cases.
I mean, I've calibrated calibration.
Yeah.
So calibrating your obstacle avoidance stuff,
Yeah.
you kind of have to use it. I've had issues with the Mavic 2 Pro, and the only way I could fix it was by using DJI Assist or Assistant. But yeah, apart from that, most things are done. Even unlocking, the process of which we've done a post about, the process of unlocking your aircraft to fly in restricted airspace.
Yeah.
Even that is so simple now.
Yeah.
It's obviously you have to request the airspace be unlocked by whoever owns that airspace, whether it be an airport or a London borough. But once that's done, the communication to DJI to tell them that that's what you've requested. You tell them that's what you've requested. They unlock your aircraft remotely.
Yeah.
You turn your aircraft on. It already tells you the moment you turn it on that, hey, you've got this airspace opened. Do you want to open it now?
Yeah.
Flick a switch. Bosh,
All
airspace
done.
is open. But just remember, if you shut your aircraft down and change your battery, you have to unlock that airspace again, or else the aircraft won't take off.
Is that still true?
To figure that out,
but
it is still true. Yeah. It still happens.
Right.
I mean, now there's literally just a toggle switch.
Yeah.
So if you've got, say, you've had 3 days worth of airspace unlocked or 2 days of airspace unlocked by DJI, that will stay active on your account, your logged in account for those few days. So the moment you turn your aircraft on, it'll tell you. You go into authorized zones, unlock authorized zones, and there's just a toggle switch. Press the toggle switch, tick the 2 boxes that basically say I'm authorized to fly here. Press OK, bosh, your aircraft's unlocked.
Yeah.
But the moment you land it, change battery, put a new battery in, you have to go through that toggle switch and tick boxes again. But it's easy. It's so easy.
It is.
And just the technology is advancing quicker and quicker and quicker.
100%. And so, it's only the last 7 years that we're discussing here that things have changed so much, and there's so much reliability in these systems now that there is a massive future for using them for all sorts of purposes, which we're seeing. But I think that 6-7 years ago, when you wanted to use a drone for a particular application, you just had to kind of go through the entire process and make sure everything works. Now it's sort of like, the drone is almost a box standard thing. It kind of works out of the box. You kind of know it will work and everything. It's not something you have to build per se. You need to just use it to be able to capture data. And I think a lot of the value transition has gone from not so much flying the drone or kind of building the drone system, but actually doing something useful with the data.
Well, it's a tool, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you are turning up to a job with a tool, which is the drone.
Yeah.
And hopefully not your camera operator or spotter.
Yeah. But I think the difference is that 7 years ago, it was seen as less of a tool and more of a kind of a machine you had to maintain. To be able to get anything done, and there were so few people doing it because there was just so much work in terms of just getting these things to stay reliable. But now things have become so reliable that anyone can use a drone. You have to be compliant and you have to be process driven.
But
and
you have to be capable. Being able to fly that bit of kit yourself. It's nuts, isn't it? Insane. So I mean, where do we see? I know you said something awesome the other day. You want in 10 years' time, I'm quoting you here, by the way. In 10 years' time, you want to be walking down the street At that point, I think I interjected and said in Barbados. Um, and
Unlikely, but okay.
unlikely, but we'll see. And see a drone flying around collecting data, and it is commonplace.
Yes.
But there, and that also goes with things like, which has been a controversial subject for years, drone deliveries.
Mm.
You know, I don't see why not.
Mm-hmm.
Why we shouldn't have Amazon or DHL or FedEx or any other supplier that's
Mm-hmm.
out there, you know, using drone technology to deliver packages and parcels. I know it puts the man out of place,
Mm-hmm.
but surely then that resource can be, ooh, I got over excited and spat on my keyboard. You know, surely they can take the manpower out of delivery and move it somewhere else and
Yeah.
turn delivery into an autonomous task.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, maybe the man, you know, the guy to start with, you could have, say, in America, where you've got vast open space and you've got ranches and buildings out on the, you could have someone drive to the end of a driveway, you know, a UPS driver or whoever, press a button and the drone takes off out the back of the van,
Yeah.
delivers the item, flies back to the van, lands, and then he can go on and do his
Yeah.
next delivery.
Yeah.
You know,
100.
I don't think it will be uncommon.
Yeah, totally agree. I think the whole delivery and why, we've been talking about delivery for a long time. I think
Yeah.
with delivery, there's the challenges from my perspective, no longer the technical challenge. I mean, even though there are technical challenges, I would say that it's more of a regulatory challenge at this point. And
And maybe a bit logistical as well.
and logistical, and getting the economics to work in all
Yeah.
areas with high density, and also figuring out, where are these parcels going to be delivered, who's going to be. So I think there are kind of, from the tech point of view, the technology is there. I think if you had perfect permissions to be able to fly beyond visual line of sight, to be able
Yep.
to drop things from the air, you could actually do a drone delivery today, like the
Yeah.
program itself.
I mean, I say they do some, don't they, to the remote islands in Scotland.
Yeah.
They'll fly drones out for medical supplies, etc. They'll fly a long range
Yeah.
out, deliver, fly long range back, land.
Yeah.
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 The
But
future is exciting.
yeah, but I think delivery is just one use case and it's just so talked about. I feel like it gets probably 90% of the hype.
It does.
And like there are so many more things that drones can do, that just basically don't get enough attention because
No,
they're
I mean,
not
look at
as
what
sexy
we
as the delivery.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, the 3D side of things, construction, 3D digital twins.
Mhm.
You know, why shouldn't you be able to turn up to a building site and go, well, I've got a drone in a box,
Mhm.
which is the big thing,
Mhm.
you know, and every day have that drone autonomously at 8 o'clock in the morning, take off, do a flight, collect data, come
Mhm.
back, land in the box,
Yeah,
upload its data. It could
yeah,
do that every single morning for the entirety of the build project. Imagine the data you'd get from day one to day end,
yeah.
whatever. Yeah. You know,
There
every
will be
single
there will
day,
be no end, right? It would just be like continue. It's
it'll
a bit
just
like,
keep
yeah,
going.
it will just keep going. Bit like, I mean, you've got fixed cameras like CCTV that keep recording, but
Yeah.
there's a huge wave of transition happening where a lot of these CCTV cameras are becoming intelligent. So they're not just taking in feed anymore. They're building an understanding of the world. So I think it's being done at scale, for example, for traffic. There's a lot of traffic monitoring that happens now
Yes.
every day to understand what the patterns are like.
Yep.
Where do we need better roadworks? Where do we need better policing? Where do we need more infrastructure? And all those decisions are being made through the CCTV camera inputs. And you could do the same thing with drones, and not just a construction site, but any kind of infrastructure site, to understand what's going on site,
Mm-hmm.
to extrapolate in real time what is the right thing to do, right decision to make, to stay on budget, stay on timeline.
That was a big word, by the way.
What do you mean?
Extrapolate.
Extrapolate. Yes, that is a big word.
Yeah, it's a big word. I like
Yeah.
that. I'm going to use that more often. I'll write that down. But you're
Yeah.
not wrong. Why does it? You know, why is all the attention on drone delivery?
Yes, because everyone, I think from a consumer point of view, drone delivery is more exciting because,
Yeah, I can get my Amazon delivery dumped in my garden in amongst my, you know, in amongst the dog poo that I haven't tidied up yet, whatever. I mean, obviously, you've got other issues with, things like if it does get delivered, what keeps it safe?
yeah.
There's lots, but you're right. There's so many more applications
Oh
that
yeah,
we can use drones for,
100%.
and there will be some out there that we haven't even thought about yet.
I think the latest one that I saw was I think they're doing water sampling with drones now. So so let's say you want to sample a river or an area with to understand the sort of water properties,
Yeah,
but you don't want to like walk along the river and kind of get samples across different patches.
now,
Basically they've got a payload. You get the drone in the air, it follows the river, it goes down every few spots and kind of takes a sample and then either brings it back or stores it. The other one is reforestation, which probably has received
yeah,
a bit more media attention. So you can plant trees with drones 10 times faster than you can with humans.
yep.
And people have developed these seed sort of pods that attach to the base of the drones. And as the drone is flying, it will sort of like basically disperse seed exactly precisely in the right place it needs to go with the right sort of composition of nutrients that it needs. And,
So cool.
it's just amazing.
Well, I mean, fire. I've seen. I think not in this country, obviously, but there are drones out there that will put out fires, high-rise building fires.
Yep. Hmm. Yep.
What else have we got? Flamethrowers. No,
Flamethrower.
no word of a lie.
Yeah,
They,
yeah.
I think it's when stuff gets stuck on
On
power
power
lines.
lines, yeah.
The drone goes up and literally burns it all off with a. Can you imagine that? A drone with a flamethrower.
Yeah.
That's
That
my kind of. That's my kind of drone. I'm right up for that.
that definitely has to go through
The
some level of
the die hard of drones. Oh,
regulation.
chuck a flamethrower on it. Yeah, why not? But the applications are almost endless,
Yeah,
really.
100%. Yeah.
It just depends what crazy stuff people come up with. I think
Yeah.
chucking a flamethrower on a drone is pretty crazy, but that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think all of these things are, possible. It's just a question of the economics, the regulatory time frame, and how fast the technology will move as a forcing function of those
Yeah,
two. Yeah.
yeah.
Because
I
if
mean,
the
obviously, agriculture is one that's taken. Agriculture is happening as we speak, but
Mhm.
nobody really talks about it,
Yeah.
do they? Drones in agriculture. I did a project probably about 2 years ago now, down in the West Country, the
Mhm.
southwest of the UK,
Mhm.
and there was a farmer flying a. It was basically I had to film him doing it because it was for a BBC documentary.
Mhm.
He was flying his drone across his fields
Mhm.
to measure. I can't even remember what he was measuring. I think, or either that, or he was going to be using some kind of spray over his fields using a drone.
Yeah.
But that is something that's happening now
Yeah.
that has got so much future potential,
100%.
but nobody really talks about it.
Yeah, actually, I like to divide it into sensing and actuation. So, I think a lot of drone applications today are very much sensing focused, which is
Yep.
sense what does the world look like, whether it's in RGB, visual, or in thermal, or
Yep.
in multispectral, sense what is the here and now of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what we're probably going to see more and more of in 5, 7, 10 years is the actuation, which is spray, paint,
Yeah.
apply something to
Paint.
it,
Yeah.
um,
Burn stuff.
um, earn stuff,
Burn.
burn
Burn
stuff,
stuff.
burn stuff.
Burn
Yeah.
stuff. Put stuff out.
You are
Yeah.
a bit, you're a bit too into that application,
It's
Alex.
Monday. It's Monday, Baron.
What do you want to, what do you want to
Burn thing.
burn things with
It's
drones?
because it's cold, and I'm just thinking heat now right now would be very nice.
A mobile heater.
Yeah, I actually
Oh,
do one. It's over there chugging away to itself, using up all my gas. So yeah, I mean, wow, the future of tech. Be interesting to see what happens. It
yeah,
really will.
100%.
And I'm guessing, if anyone if anyone listening or watching, what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Even if they're silly, what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Because hey, you know, 10, 15 years ago, putting out fires with a drone would have seemed a stupid idea. Deliveries with a drone would have seemed a stupid idea. It's all happening.
It is all happening. Yeah. In fact, I think just the idea of a drone, people used to think, oh, these are just toys that people are playing around
Yeah.
with. And again, it's very similar to computers in the 80s and 90s, because that's what all the hobbyists that were playing around with computers back then were just, they were kind of cast away in a corner and nobody really paid attention to them. And now if you
Geeks.
look, yeah, basically the geeks playing around with computers. But
Yeah.
now if you think about it, like that has had one of the biggest impacts
Mm.
on us as a society.
Yep.
Um, and I think, within technology, there are so many different things, and drones being one of them, that's probably going to have a big impact on us.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to be living through it,
Yeah.
so we'll
Yeah.
be
Is
there
it?
yeah.
We'll be
So
there. We'll be there. We're there at the beginning. Hopefully, we won't be there at the end.
no,
I want to be long gone when the end comes. I can tell you.
oh, this is going to be a depressing end to the podcast.
Yeah, let's make it a depressing end to the podcast.
Uh,
I'm nearly 50.
mm.
It'll be good. It'll be good. It'll be
Or
really
maybe we figure out, the Alexa, what's it called, Alexa? The thing that helps you.
Don't say it too loud. I've got one in here. She might kick
No,
off.
no, Alexa. Elixir. I don't know what's the word, but the thing that makes you Elixir. Maybe we'll figure one of those out, or maybe your consciousness will be, we can transform it into a physical robot
Drone.
drone. Yeah.
I would much
Who
rather
knows?
my consciousness fly around. You got me thinking now. That'd be good.
Yeah. A little Halloween.
Flight of consciousness. Oh, book. Flight
Book
of
title for this
consciousness.
week.
Yeah, that's it. That is it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
That was a
Nice
good
one.
chat,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Just a good waffle about the past and the past, present, and the future.
Past, present, and the future.
It's like Christmas. Had the ghost to Christmas past, present, and future.
Well, that's
Happy
relevant given where we
Happy
are.
Christmas, everyone.
Yeah.
we didn't even plan that, but there you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
And should we say a couple of things about, we've got 2 guests coming on for the next few pods.
Yes.
I don't think we're going to mention who they are just as yet.
No.
But we've got 2 different guests coming on 2 different pods. So I think it's going to be really interesting for, I don't know if people are going to be able to, people don't really know who they are because we've not said anything, but it'd be great if anyone wants to be on the pod. Let us know. We're very happy to have guests. Let us know in the comment section, or if you know us, just get in touch with us.
Give us a shout. I'd be more than happy to have you on. Obviously, we had Jim on last couple of weeks ago. That was great fun. We had a good chat. So it'd be nice to get more guests on. So if you are interested, drop us an email on team@hammermissions.com or chuck us a comment. And while you're at it, give us a subscribe. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
And we also run goes out on a podcast as well. So we are also in audio format.
Yeah.
You won't see our luscious looks, but you'll be able to hear our dulcet tones.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Yeah,
I'm going to take.
Yeah, steal
Please.
that. You can have it. For yours. Cool.
Brilliant.
Nice one, Baron.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
Good chat. I'll catch up with you later.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.